Okay, thank you, David. Welcome, everyone, to today's Winnakee-Dutchess Trails Roundtable. I'm Kathleen Davis from Winnakee Land Trust. As you may know, if you've participated in some of our roundtables before, our local committee members are an ad hoc group of local and regional trail advocates, professional trail planners and builders, and volunteers as well. We meet monthly to plan our quarterly community roundtables, where we discuss current trail topics and plan these roundtables. We try to find special projects that will be of interest to everyone. There may still be a few people still signing on right now, but if you have any questions, we're good. Okay, if you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in our chat feature or use the raise your hand feature. Our host today for today's roundtable is Carl Beard, retired Rivers and Trails Community Program person from the National Park Service and current member of the Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee and Winnakee's Trail Committee. So Carl, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, first of all, just a quick shout out to all the committee members, who are here from Dutchess County, Winnakee, our partner organizations in Red Hook Trails, obviously Hudson River Valley Greenway, and our newest committee member from Open Space Institute, Peter Karis. So yeah, I want to, again, share the welcome. The purpose of the roundtable is really to bring people together in a forum to foster the development and sustainability of trails. And we think and we operate locally and regionally through networking, learning, and information sharing. So that's what we're about. As Kathleen said, this roundtable is recorded, and within a few days you'll be able to see a recording of this roundtable along with other previous roundtables on the YouTube channel of Winnakee Land Trust. So there'll be a slide at the end that shows you some of the links. You don't have to write all those down because if you are registered for this program, we will send you by email a follow-up with any links and other information that may pop up during today's program. So that's what we're about. Again, if you have questions, please enter them in the chat feature. And after the presentation, Kathleen and I will pitch those questions to our presenters. And at the down the agenda, let me see. I should share my screen here, shouldn't I? Oh, okay. Let me share my screen for today's agenda. Can everyone see that? Okay, good. I just want to walk through the agenda really quickly. Our main presentation is with Peter Karis from Open Space Institute. Again, questions in the chat. Then we'll follow that with some regional trail updates that we've been apprised of ahead of time. Dutchess County Urban Trail, Red Hook Sawkill Trails. Don't write these down. They're going to happen. Some good developments from the Hoyt House Bridge restoration in Statsburg. The Appalachian Trail Vista. Is Ron Rosen on the program here? I don't see him up.
I don't think so.
Okay, and then some news from good news from Ulster County, the Highmount Trail. We'd like to hear some quick updates from Hudson River Valley Greenway, and then we have some updates from Chris Morris, the State Trails Coordinator, that he's given us, and we'll just have to run through the information he's given us. And then at the end, we have some time for anyone to offer your local trail developments, and again, for that part, use the raise hand feature. So then we'll just do a quick roundup at the end and take it from there. But to So that's what we're going to do. You know, we're all muted. You'll have to unmute yourself to talk. So moving into the next part of the agenda, you know, trails happen through a number of different ways. And they happen at different scales, and we honor all of those scales here in this roundtable. There may be, you know, local trails that happen within an individual park or preserve. There may be linkage trails that connect between parks and preserves, or between those kinds of places and downtowns or schools or things like that. Or there may be long single corridor trails, things like rail trails, or long distance trails like the Appalachian Trail that cross many jurisdictions. And then there are systems of trails that may have all of these things and be comprised of all different things. So what Peter's going to be talking about is systems of trails, but the rest of us are going to be talking about other things, you know, as well. And I just want to sort of organize our thinking a little bit. You know, how do trails happen? What's the process for how trails happen? At some point, they started up as an idea, right? Somewhere in our consciousness. And then, you know, people talk about it for a while, whatever happens. I don't know. I've never understood that stage. I have lots of ideas, but they, you know, who knows where they go. And then at some point, those ideas get codified into a concept, something written down, something that's been sort of tested for its credibility a little bit. And from there, it may be put in a broader context, a broader vision. And then from there, you might focus in and create a feasibility study, master plan type thing. That really focuses on specifics, you know, costs, you know, what's going to happen where, things like that. And then after that, there might be some sort of strategy plan or action plan. I like to think of them. You know, what are we going to actually do, and when, and who? And then getting down into actual implementation. That's the funding, construction. And then the stage that nobody really talks about a lot, and that's the maintenance and repair, the improvement, sustainability phase, you know, of trails. And, you know, all of us on the screen that I'm looking at here are at somewhere on that spectrum with some of our trails. But, you know, as we, you know, go into today's discussion, you know, I encourage you to think about these kinds of things. What's the scale? And where are we in the process of these individual things? And how might we move from where we are to where we need to be next? Anyway, you know, OSI, Open Space Institute, has been an enormous proponent for these kinds of trails at all levels. And you know, today we're you know, really thrilled to hear from Peter Karis. He's Vice President for Parks and Stewardship with Open Space Institute. The things he's talking about may be on the other side of the river from Dutchess County, but I think the approach and well, I mean, there's lots of stuff to learn from here. I know of some of the places where he's you know, been focusing, but I really look forward to learning about more of them. So with that, please, Peter, take it away, and I'm going to mute myself here.
Good. Well, thanks, Carl and Kathleen and all the members of the roundtable. You've made us feel very welcome when we reached out to you earlier this year, and we're really happy to be part of this working group in the Hudson Valley. And it's a place where OSI is, you know, this is our home, and we care a lot about it, and we love working with all the partners in the Hudson Valley. And I'm just going to share my screen and make sure that you guys can see. You can see a presentation. Is that a yes?
Yep,
You've got it.
Looks good.
Okay. So I'm here to talk about a little bit about what OSI is working on, and particularly in our parks program. And I've got several colleagues here from OSI that are going to critique me after this, I'm sure. But we all really work as a solid team at all sorts of levels. It is not just me. It's a whole organization that's really made trails, specifically Greenway trails, a priority. And as Carl said, you know, there's all sorts of scales and levels to work at. And OSI has, you know, been working for a long time west of the Hudson River in Ulster, Orange, and Sullivan counties. And this Greenway Trail focus is really a way to kind of tie together our collective work over time. So a little bit about OSI, if many of you know, and I will start to say it's good to see so many familiar faces on the screen. I see Thomas Wright. Thomas, I haven't seen you maybe 10 years, but I was a lowly landscape architect working on a Greenway plan for the city of Beacon with the Hudson River Valley Greenway grant. And that was a big project for me back then. And I'm happy to see, this, it's still kind of alive. So it's good to see you, Thomas. So OSI, we are a land conservation organization, not for profit. And at our core, we protect land. We protect land for all sorts of reasons, large scale, indirect reasons, but also with a focus, what we do in parks is recreation and community connectivity. And we safeguard these places. These are the places that you go to connect with nature, parks and forests and working landscapes. We don't do it alone. We work on a partnership scale from people of all walks of life. But really it's this common purpose of access to the outdoors and land protection for reasons that humans need these landscape services. And while we work across the Eastern United States, as I said, our home and we're most active in New York State, specifically the Hudson Valley. How we work, OSI has different programs I hate to call them silos, but specifics that we work in. As I said, we protect land, so we do direct land acquisition and also work with easements. We fund conservation outside of New York by getting private philanthropy and pooling it, and then going through a process and funding projects. We do that based on science and research and also public advocacy. We're working hard both in Washington, D.C. and Albany, and also with county governments and local municipalities to affect public policy as it comes to conservation and recreation. We sponsor community groups fiscally, and we try and grow conservation at the grassroots level, and with a focus on urban areas and new diverse leadership in conservation. And then where I focus is parks and trails improvement projects, which is kind of where the rubber hits the road in a manner of speaking, but it's really where it's the place where people feel, and it's the most tangible, they feel the impact of what OSI and the conservation world does. And it's places like Minnewaska State Park Preserve that OSI has helped double in size over the past 30, 40 years, that you really kind of feel this impact over time. As I mentioned, our parks program is one of the things that we do. We've been doing this about 10 years, and you can see the spread of our projects. We're really focused in southeastern New York, in places that we call legacy landscapes. So places down here like the Catskills, the Shawangunk, and the Hudson Highlands. But we also have the Adirondacks, the Capital District, treading into northern New Jersey. And then a lot of land work in the past 10 years has been expansion into the southeastern US, specifically South Carolina. You've probably been on some of our projects. I don't know if you may have known it or not known it, but our River to Ridge Trail in New Paltz is really kind of our anchor and what I call our test kitchen. It's a place that we own and operate a trail, but it's also a working farm, and it's also a place where we're doing floodplain protection and habitat enhancements. The Lake Minnewaska Visitor Center and the historic carriage roads. If none of you have been to Minnewaska, I highly encourage going there and experiencing the placemaking that we've been able to achieve at Minnewaska, which is the third largest state park in the state. The Wallkill Valley Rail Trail and the Rosendale Trestle. I see my friends from the Wallkill Valley Land Trust are on, and we have a lot of fun working on the Wallkill. And it recently, in the past 3 years, have made major upgrades to the Wallkill, and we're continuing that work in partnership with Ulster County, which I'll speak to in a moment. East of Hudson, we've been making a big investment in Fawstock State Park, not only doubling the size of that park, but also just wrapping up about a $9 million 8-year kind of series of improvements with trailheads and expansion of trail systems within the state park, and really trying to make Fawstock a welcoming state park for folks to access nature. And then smaller projects, Bluestone Wild Forest in the Catskills. If any of you have been on the Hudson River Trail at Mills Norrie, that was OSI Park's first project. That was before my time, but it's a lovely part. And then many others I'm sure you've seen or have been on. And these are some views of our projects. So last year, in light of COVID, but also, thinking about, how to touch more people with our work, we made a real programmatic pivot to rail trails, what we call Greenway trails. And it's these longer corridors that one of the key components is that it connects communities. So it really touches places where people live and gives them kind of this unfettered access within their communities. When I said it, rubber hits the road, the Greenway trails are the types of projects that are the greatest accessibility to the most amount of people, whether it's age, whether it's race, whether it's whatever. The flat, wide trails close to home are what people gravitate towards, especially in light of the pandemic, which hopefully we're coming out of. They also have all these intangible benefits, public health and wellness. They strengthen communities. When you think about rail trails, these communities used to be connected by the railroads. And then there was no more railroads and, things changed. This is a way to reconnect those communities for vibrancy across the landscape. They also boost economic activity. I mean, the outdoor recreation side of the economy is about 2% of GDP or $375 billion. That is a lot of economic activity that can live within local communities that have these resources. They also help with climate, right? They expand safe and green transportation options. And then quite simply, people just want them, including me. There are challenges in working on these projects. There's a long time scale and you got to really build that into your planning. This is a long game. You're not going to really effectuate big change in a short amount of time, relatively speaking. Comes down to funding. These rail trails, these multi-use trails are expensive. You need seed money to develop them in order to get to a point where you can qualify for public funding. So there's a constant tension of what do you need to do to build a project so that you can fund it over time, not let alone the maintenance that Carl was alluding to at the end, which no one likes to talk about. The public funding is competitive, right? It's complicated, it's time consuming, it takes man hours to manage. And we're lucky at OSI to have people that all they do is help us with this, the funding aspects and the grant aspects of these projects. Changing political priorities. This is a constant battle, even at the local level. When supervisors change, attitudes can change, and really focus can change. When you're working on a long time scale project, that's important to kind of work through. And then a lot of these old corridors, they're compromised. They've been long since abandoned. They've been built on and changed. Some of them have been absorbed. And it really takes a lot of skill and energy to unpack that and get down to the actual acquisition of these corridors before you can even think about building. And here's a picture of the Rosenthal Trestle, which we're really proud of. And working with the Waukee Valley Land Trust in 2013, we acquired and refurbished the trestle, which is now a keystone in the Waukee Valley Rail Trail. So a little bit about how we kind of think about things. We're lucky to have resources to be able to do planning and work in GIS. And on the left is a map of the abandoned rail lines in New York State. This one's focused on southeastern New York, but these are the corridors. These are the Greenway trails that have been left by the railroads. And when we've done some analysis, looking at it, and in the middle map, you can kind of see some of the rankings that we do, and looking at what's possible, where long corridors are intact, where they're already in public ownership, and then where targets are to fill gaps in a larger network, which leads us to a larger vision, which I'll get into. So coming out of this programmatic pivot, OSI has really, again, taken a look at the west side of the Hudson, and we have a vision that you guys are getting the preview of kind of all of this, about a year and a half worth of work internally, of an interconnected Greenway trail system from Kingston to Port Jervis, from the Catskills to the Hudson River. It would connect 3 OSI legacy landscapes and dozens of communities in Ulster, Sullivan, Orange counties. It's comprised of 7 major corridors. Most of them are rail trails, but we do include the carriage roads across the Shawangunk Ridge as a connector. Really with the O&W DNH corridor shown in green as the artery. Collectively, this network would be about 250 miles feeding into the Empire State Trail, would make it the largest feeder trail network in the state of New York into the Empire State Trail. This is high level thinking. I'm at about 100,000 feet right here. And this looks very simple. It's not, but really the aspiration is to reconnect this landscape so that the public can enjoy and touch these spaces and have these communities reconnect. We're working on 3 different scales actually within this vision. One is that overall vision, but 2 is really kind of in this corridor planning stage. And last year we were lucky enough to receive a New York State EPF grant, which is going to seed an engineering feasibility study of the entire 57-mile O&W corridor from Kingston to Port Jervis, so literally connect the Hudson and Delaware rivers again. Along with that, we're working on kind of the larger vision and the story behind, the inspirational story behind that vision. And then also, we're really finding that the economics matter, and that is a real selling point when it comes to dealing with politicians, with governments, is they want to see the cost benefit of this investment. So we're going to really, the third leg of the stool and looking at a feasibility study or a vision is this economic impact. So again, we're proceeding with this engineering feasibility study and these other studies. We're going to start this fall. We anticipate really a 2-year rollout, a robust kind of community outreach and planning process. We're going to have boots on the ground. We're going to become the experts in the O&W and really understand where the connectivity can happen, where those gaps are, and then bring the full programmatic force of OSI kind of with partners to bear on acquiring these places, planning and designing these spaces, and then hopefully actually building them out. Maybe not OSI, but really teeing up the network for build out. And as I said, when we're completed, this O&W in itself is going to connect over 20 community centers across the 3 counties. And here's a view of the Bashakill in Sullivan County. And literally the O&W is on the far bank to the left that runs with views out over the Bashakill. This is the largest freshwater wetland system in southeastern New York in Sullivan County. So it's just spectacular scenery, all protected by DEC. Carl and Kevin Smith, I see you're on the phone. Your State of the Trails has been instrumental in helping us kind of, as a partnership, talk to Ulster County about the importance and the value of the trail network. In fact, through this partnership with Woodstock Land Conservancy and the Catskill Mountain Keeper, we were able to convince Ulster County to invest 6% of their ARPA funding, or about $2.1 million, in actual physical improvements into the rail trail system across 3 projects. It'll be about 10 miles of additional refurbished trail, which will look like our work on the Sawkill. And again, really a team effort and a partnership to secure this funding. So we're really indebted to those other two organizations. The 3 projects will build upon our work on the Sawkill, but also kind of tee up our work, our planning work on the O&W with what we call proof of concept. We're going to implement some sections of the O&W as something to point to for other communities as to what they could have in their communities. So project number one is, again, an extension of our work on the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail. It'll go from Sojourner Truth Park in New Paltz to the hamlet of Gardner, about 5.5 miles. The county's allocated about $900,000 for that project. And that's leveraging about over $2 million of investment over the past 10 years to get us to a refurbished point in the northern Wallkill, including $1 million grant from Hudson River Valley Greenway last year to improve the New Paltz section of the Empire State Trail. And I just want to give a big shout out to the Wallkill Valley Land Trust. They manage the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail from end to end. They work really hard with the municipal owners of that trail and also the pretty demanding public. And you guys are doing a great job. We're really proud of the work you're doing. So thank you, Christy and Kara. And I see Marty is on too. So that's coming up and this year we're doing planning, and hopefully we're going to have this finished before the winter, this extension of the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail. And these are some pictures of our work on the Northern Rail Trail to kind of give everyone an idea of, what we're doing. We're building new trail where there wasn't. We're refurbishing trail where there was and putting in the hard infrastructure like bridges and safe road crossings, and then the visitor amenities like kiosks and wayfinding and things, so that people feel welcome and comfortable and understand and know that this is a place that they're supposed to be. Project number two, funded by Ulster County, is in the town of Rochester in the Rondout Valley. It'll connect the hamlet of Accord and the hamlet of Kerhonkson, about 3.2 miles. It does include a couple of bridges, but this is a beautiful stretch right on the Rondout Creek, well used, and really a place with a minor investment. I say minor, 600,000. About 3.2 miles will be completely new. And give those two hamlets an anchor point as they're growing. The Kerhonkson and Accord are growing hamlets in a changing world. And then project number three is a little bit south, just north of the village of Ellenville, a 2-mile section owned by the town of Wawarsing, which links up to a section of trail being built by the town, actually through the Eastern Correctional Facility, but it'll bring folks on a new trail right to the edge of the village of Ellenville, where hopefully the trail will in the future extend south into Sullivan County and the Bashakill. You can also see on this map the carriage road network coming out of Minnewaska, which will then connect into Ellenville, making this kind of a major trail intersection and larger vision of the network. And then just, to kind of zoom back out and as you've heard all that and kind of can see, a lot of focus in the short term in the north, lots of planning happening in the south. I'll point out the Scunnamunk Rail Trail, this purple line is an emerging rail trail. OSI last year purchased about 10 miles of this line from near the village of Chester to the Moona Trestle, or the north tip of Scunnamunk Mountain. And we're in the process of selling that to Orange County, who will be developing that as an extension of the Heritage Trail shown here in brown. So a lot of emerging work happening, Orange County. And then Sullivan County, the Sullivan O&W. Sullivan County has a robust master plan for connectivity on the Sullivan O&W. We're working closely with them. And then of course the Catskill Mountain Railroad, with the success of the Ashokan Rail Trail, and you'll hear about Highmount later, which is further in on the Catskill Mountain Rail Trail. Ulster County is making investments there. OSI is working on looking at the feasibility of either a co-location with rail or a trail only feasibility to connect the city of Kingston with the Ashokan Rail Trail. And then I just put this out there because, naturally we're planners. And as we look at the Hudson Valley, what about the east of Hudson? The west of Hudson's getting all this attention, but the east of Hudson, you guys have the bones. And I say you guys, I live in Pleasant Valley, so this is my backyard too. But with the Empire State Trail coming through the southern and northern end of the county, and looking at where these old abandoned lines are, there is a possibility of a network. I look specifically at the Beacon line, which is under abandonment right now. That is an intact corridor that could connect Hopewell with the Hudson River. The Harlem Valley Rail Trail is thriving. And I know Winnakee has in the past thought about a connection from Rhinebeck to Millerton, the Huckabush corridor, pretty complicated corridor, but also these north-south connections coming out of Hopewell and Poughkeepsie to Pine Plains and onto the Taconics on the Massachusetts border. There are the bones here for some visioning to happen on Greenway trails. So I kind of put that out there as a spark, maybe for this group, as we think about partnerships and future work. And I just come back to my point, it's a long game. I love this picture on the left. People have been dying to ride rail trails since before it was a thing. And the juxtaposition about 100 years apart to me kind of is inspirational in making that point that this is a long game. It takes a long time, but really to stay focused, eventually we'll get there. So thank you all. I'm happy to take questions and look forward to participating in the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Peter. This is, it is a long game, and those of us who have been in this, some of us had to retire before the projects got done. But thank you for picking up the ball on so many of these things. If people have questions, please put them in the chat feature. And I'm going to share my screen. Whoops, wait a second. Peter, you're still sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop. There you go.
Oh, okay. Again, questions, please put them in the chat. Kathleen, I saw that you had your hand up there. What's going on? You can unmute yourself, Kathleen. Oh, you're clapping.
I'm clapping, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Come on, Carl, can't you tell the difference between the two?
I need to wear glasses, how that goes. But the
so much to take in. I mean, I'll have to, of course, watch the recording and look at those maps closely, but it's incredible.
Yeah, and I see Lisa Lyons has joined us. I had the pleasure of checking out, field testing your Sullivan County O&W Trail project out in Hurleyville a couple weeks ago with Lisa. Lisa's a previous colleague, coworker of mine. So yeah, in the middle of what I've always considered is nowhere, there's a fantastic trail, and I was so impressed to see the level of usage on that and the kinds of usage. Bike rental shops popped up, renting bikes easily identifiable on the trail, and ordinary people all over the place. It's a wonderful resource. Okay, like I promised, I'm watching for questions, but I'm not seeing any.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. That being the case, I'm going to go back to my screen share. Whoops.
There is a question from Kathy.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Sorry, I can't find
Kathy
it
Nolan.
now. Oh, there it is.
Kathy Nolan, yeah, she says the O&W Rail Trail in Hurleyville runs right by the Catskill Mountain Keeper's new office. Kathy works with Catskill Mountain Keeper. And yeah, it's right off the trail. Wonderful little roadside community park there, and a very cool looking O&W railroad station that I'd like to learn more about. It seems to be getting some attention, some work. So. Let me see, moving into the regional trail updates. Next up is Emily from Emily Dozier from Dutchess County Transportation Council. And I'm going to, whoops, no, it's premature, sorry. Why don't you take it away? And I have to unshare my screen. Oops.
Okay,
There we go. Sorry about that.
it's okay. All right, so thanks, Carl. I just want to give a quick update on the Dutchess County Urban Trail, which for those of you who don't know, there's a good website. It's just dutchesscountyurbantrail.com. And there's a map here that you can look at. So this is a project that the county Department of Public Works is managing with consultants, and I'm not involved in the management of it, but our project manager, Matt Dukavich, has given me some updates. So that's what I'm sharing today. You can see there's 3 phases of the trail. The first one is shown in orange, and it goes from Parker Avenue, just south of the existing Dutchess Rail Trail, all the way up to what's called Hudson Heritage, which is a new development in the town of Poughkeepsie, mixed use across from Quiet Cove. So this is the stage they're working on right now, and this section, this phase 1 section, is currently being worked on. The contractor is doing some things, including silt fence work, construction entrances, looking at utility relocations. And the idea is to open this section from Parker up to Cedar Street this year. And then the rest of this phase 1 from Cedar North up to Hudson Heritage by next summer. And then the next phase, which is phase 2, shown in blue here, kind of alongside Marist College. They're doing the detailed design work for that phase right now, and they're hoping to get that out to bid next year. So then after that goes out to bid for consultants, they could start working on that. And I do have a couple photos that Matt shared with me. So, you know, this is the early stages of that phase 1 section, but you can see they've cleared a lot of trees. They're grading. And let's see here, there's a couple more. Here we go. So, you know, they're out there with their heavy machinery, with their survey equipment and so on. And then this is the, the line of compactors and, you know, all these things. Grading out that phase 1 section. So it's an active construction project right now, which is really exciting. I think there was actually on Peter's map, there was a tiny little blip showing this abandoned rail corridor. So it's one of those projects. It's small, but it's you know, significant, and it will connect a lot of Poughkeepsie, especially the north side of Poughkeepsie, and Marist College to the rail trail and the walkway and that greater rail trail network. So that's what I have for today. I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, I underscore, you know, this is an important urban rail trail. So my sense is in that part of the city, it's going to get a heck of a lot of use. You know, not just recreational use, although parts of that really look wide enough to be kind of a linear park, but also transportation use.
Yep, and the
yeah.
intent is for it to be kind of a 24/7 park, so open all the time, so that it really can serve as transportation as much as recreation.
Mm-hmm. Good. And the question is, how will the trail cross Route 9? That's a loaded question. You want care to take that?
Let's see. So the Route 9 crossing, I stopped my screen share, but there's the existing crossing, the underpass with Marist College that was constructed several years ago. So there's no new crossings, if I remember right. They're using the existing underpass and existing crossings that exist.
Yeah, the railroad actually passed underneath that intersection by the Marist traffic light, by what is it, Mike Ortega's fitness. So there's a massive tunnel under there. That's going to be interesting, and interesting challenge for trail planners and to figure out how to manage that safely. But it's again a safe crossing of an otherwise pretty scary traffic intersection.
And they have done a lot of work with Marist, with the security staff at Marist, because it is going to be open all the time. So they're trying to make things as safe as they can. And another aspect of that is all the ADA work. So they're trying to incorporating ADA compliant access points as much as possible, several of them at least in that section.
Mhm. Interesting. Yeah, because there's a big grade separation there. Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, let me see. Have you ended your share, and
I think so. Yep.
shall I share again? Okay. Next up is Warren Rosenthal from Winnakee Land Trust. If we can have your update about the Sawkill Trail.
Yeah. So
opening.
welcome everybody. So as Carl was saying, there's trails of all different types and scales and surfaces. And the one that you just saw, the urban trail, that's like a superhighway. This is what we're working on is more like a foot trail with a very basic tread, basically just either grass or dirt. Relatively easy to walk on, but nothing fancy. The intent here is to try to connect the village of Red Hook with Bard campus,
Which is up here.
ultimately. And so this is kind of the first phase of what we hope will be that ultimate connection. So what you're seeing is, Carl, if you could point to the Park West there for a moment.
This area.
Yeah, so that's an existing trail network. This is a new town park, which also includes recreational facilities, but does have a nice trail network around the perimeter of the park. Then from the western end of that park, you could point to that right there, yes. One of the first phases goes west and then south to a lookout right on the Sawkill. It's a beautiful spot, very nice, easy walk, which has become already very popular. And then the other part of phase one, if you could go up to the water line there, the blue trail.
This one.
Yep. Okay, so that's also part of phase one, and that starts at First Street and goes west and north. At this point, it dead ends, but eventually will go further north and then cross a small tributary of the Sawkill and connect and go across Kelly Road. And then ultimately, again, we're hoping to connect to the alumni center of Bard College. And then future phases will be connecting all, basically phase one and filling in those gaps. And then also creating a couple of loops down here, where right there, exactly, right there will be a loop that'll come around, so there's not a dead end there. And that's and then that's.
And then there's this link here over to. Is that not correct?
So there's going to be a connection that's going to go up First Street. So right, so just about there, and then north, right there. Yep.
To there.
Yep, exactly. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, so again, we're in the planning stages right now for the future phases. We're trying to figure out the design for some boardwalks that we have to do. And that's probably will take us, I'm going to guess that we're looking at maybe mid 2023, maybe to get at least the first part of the next phase underway. And then if you, Carl, if you could show the photo of the ribbon cutting, that'd be great. So we had a little ribbon cutting back in early June for the official opening of phase one.
There's Beth.
Yeah, who's also on the call.
Yay.
Yeah, and there's all the important people. I wasn't there, of course.
Ha ha ha.
Yep. And so yeah, again, we're very excited about this project. We appreciate all the partnerships with the Sawkill Trails Group of the town of Red Hook, and wouldn't have been possible without their cooperation and support.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Again, put them in the chat, and we can catch up with Warren again later on in the program. Next up is Kitty McCullough with the Calvert Vaux Preservation Alliance to talk with us about the Hoyt House Bridge. Whoops, no. What have I done here? I'm out of order. Actually, is Ron Rosen on the call?
Yes.
I'm here.
Ron Rosen?
I'm
Yep.
on.
Okay. You want to talk about this
I
development?
can do that. I think most people may be aware that we ended up canceling AT Vista 2022 because of low attendance in terms of registrations in advance. So you can see on the display right now some of the reasons why we ended up doing this. The SUNY New Paltz would let us get done with as long as we did it at least a month in advance. So we're still investigating all the reasons why we didn't show up too well. We were planning for 400 to 800 attending. And as of mid-June, we were at somewhere like 133, and it was getting just 1 or 2 a day. So New York, New Jersey Trail Conference was in a position where we frankly weren't able to consolidate that, conclude that we could not lose money. So in mid-June, we ended up closing off, shutting down the operation. Anybody who pre-registered were rewarded of getting their money back. So what we're working on now is the next plan for anybody who'd like to travel. There will be an AT Vista 2023 in Johnson City, Tennessee. So we're looking forward to doing that instead. And we're also giving thanks to everybody who participated in the planning we did. I'm sure people put in total of hundreds of hours. And we're going to have a gathering next month and probably in Funstock State Park for a thanks for all those who did all the work on it. Anybody have any questions you can ask and we can bring it in.
Great, thank you, Ron. And what talk about a high wire act is planning a major confab in COVID times. When these things have to take like a year of planning ahead of time to land a convincing event. Now, I have to confess, I was in that wait and see attitude, for this, but I'm also interested in your other points that your team identified, the apparent lack of interest in this type of event by a younger demographic. That and this is something that I think all of us probably face at some level. Organizing for large groups, a lot of stuff happens at a smaller short scale and shorter timeline for planning. Anyway, thank you, Ron. And again, put your questions into the chat. We have a remark from Brad Barkley, says the trail systems that we have already are amazing, but for the real economic bang, we need to have a hospitality infrastructure to facilitate multiple day trips. That's absolutely true. And the last workshop was about tourism development, specifically for Dutchess County, and that's for destination. Let me see. The biggest economic benefit does come from destination quality trails, trails that people travel to as a destination, and they bring their dollars with them, and they spend protracted amounts of time and spend those dollars in our host communities. So that is an important benefit, but it is one part of the broader portfolio, the broader mix of the kinds of benefits that the trails bring. So thank you, Brad, for that remark. Okay, now let me see if now, Kitty. I'm sorry, my slides were out of order. Could I call on Kitty McCullough to talk to us about the Hoyt Carriageway project?
Well, thank you for inviting us to talk about our effort to reopen the Hoyt Carriageway Bridge at the Point. Our chair, John Lawson, who leads the bridge project, is in the air on his way back from France, and he asked me to present for him. Calvert Vaux Preservation Alliance kicked off this final phase of our campaign to reopen the bridge with an I Love My Park Day project this May. New York State Senator Sue Serino greeted volunteers at the beginning of the day, and John led a team that worked more than 3 hours to remove weeds, dead limbs, invasive vines, and junk shrubs identified as impediments to the bridge project by our engineer, Peter Maluski. Mills Norrie Park staff helped us by hauling away truckloads of debris. All of this is the story of a little organization with no staff. Built on a promontory overlooking the Hudson River and Catskill Mountains, the point was designed in 1855 by Calvert Vaux for Leidig and Geraldine Livingston Hoyt. Many elements that Vaux explored at the point were used 2 years later when Vaux invited Frederick Law Olmsted to join him in the competition to design New York City Central Park. The Hoyt Carriageway Bridge carried the road that wended through natural and pastoral vignettes to provide family and visitors a picturesque approach to the point for more than 160 years before safety concerns forced bridge closing in 2015. CVPA seeks to restore the point as a defining moment in the evolution of American picturesque design. Reopening the historic Warren Truss Bridge that carries the road and developing a landscape tour are our next steps. We have received a grant from Marcia Brady Tucker Foundation to support development of the tour based on our new cultural landscape report, Historic Narrative, that they also help to fund. The bridge has long been popular with local residents and hikers as a very pleasurable entry to Mills Norrie State Park and access to the riverfront from Old Albany Post Road. I guess it's part of the Hudson River Trail that Peter was talking about. We link directly from our carriageway links directly from the Old Albany Post Road to that trail, which I believe runs right past the Hoyt Mansion.
It does, you're correct.
In 2020, Scenic Hudson, an organization committed to public access to the Hudson River, took early steps to make bridge restoration feasible with a cultural resource inventory of 12 historic mid-Hudson bridges, authored with the Preservation League of New York support. Armed with the information in that report, CVPA applied for a Hudson River Valley Greenway Communities Grant to develop a historic structures report that is providing engineering documentation to design bridge rehabilitation. Peter Maluski served as engineer for both reports. He made more than $5,000 in pro bono contributions over and above our Greenway funded contract with him to work out permitting and other details with Amtrak, which operates the tracks spanned by the bridge. We hope that the work we are doing with Mr. Maluski on the Hoyt Carriageway Bridge will help forge a model for the rest of the 12 bridges originally surveyed by Scenic Hudson. Mr. Maluski's report found the Hoyt Carriageway Bridge substantially sound. Minimal work to the bridge support structure is needed, and we are currently seeking proposals for concrete work on the foundation. A great deal of site clearing is still needed to make way for redecking the bridge. A substantial donation of labor from Dave's tree service removed major obstacles, and Mills Norrie Park staff continue to help by providing technical advice and hauling away debris. Mr. Maluski created a scoping budget that put completing all preparations and redecking the bridge at a cost of $200,000. This includes the clearing done to date by volunteers, Dave's Tree Service, and Mills Norrie Park staff. There are additional project components that could be done by volunteers. CVPA is working now on launching a volunteer program that will begin with the bridge project, then hopefully grow to include the many other rich opportunities that local community members could participate in to save the point. Volunteers will be critical to our ongoing success. A small nonprofit needs many types of expertise and many more hands-on hours than it can afford. Right now, we're looking to recruit someone experienced in working with friends and volunteers to make things happen who wants to help us launch our volunteer program. Thanks again for letting us present our bridge.
Great, thank you, Kitty. And I have two slides that help people. They're photographs from your group that help show what we're talking about. This is the view across the bridge, looking toward Mills Norrie State Park. You know, from the neighborhood in Statsburg. This has long served as a neighborhood connector to the park. Now there's a fence, you can't go there. But this gives you an idea of that historic Warren Truss Bridge, you know, technology, and that's what the sidelong view with the Amtrak Railroad running right beneath it. That's why we need a bridge. You don't want anybody on that highway level. So thank you again, Kitty. We hear your appeal for volunteers, and I hope somebody who views this, either on the audience or someone who views later, will hear your appeal, and somebody with the right set of skills to come and help you out. And good work to be done. That looks like a pretty cool bridge decking project. And then there's clearing. You know, that we all do on our trails. So again, thanks again. Next up is Kevin Smith, Ulster County. You want to unmute yourself and talk to this point?
Thank you, Carl. So I want to give a brief update on the significant CFA award to Ulster County. The Ulster County Transportation Council, our Metropolitan Planning Authority, applied for funding for phase 1 of the Shandaken, I'll call it roughly, we don't have a formal name yet, I don't believe, the Shandaken Rail Trail. This is the UND corridor. It's an abandoned corridor. It's the right-of-way is owned by Ulster County, and in this section of the corridor, I believe all of this is owned in fee simple by the county. And this is a really exciting project. You know, we have, as Carl and Peter said earlier, we have these really big connected trails, and we have destination trails like the Ashokan, which, by the way, I was a little upset with Peter for not putting that on their project list. OSI is very modest, but they played a very critical role at a really important time by helping to fund and commission our organization. Woodstock Land Conservancy also contributed to a privately financed feasibility study so that Ulster County could get some really sound estimates of what was going to be involved to do the design, engineering, and construction of the Ashokan Rail Trail. And it was instrumental. I was out there today, and I'll just briefly digress to say, one of the things that I'm thinking about, and I'm sure many of you are as well, looking at what's happening with heat around the world, and especially with our many people in the United States, across the country, and now in Europe. These trails, certain of these trails, because they run through forested places, such as the Ashokan, are really refuges when there's heat. I was out there this morning for an hour and a half, and it was at least 10 to 15 degrees cooler. And I had shade, I would say about 90% from Boyceville all the way to the Woodstock Dyke Trailhead in West Hurley. So I just wanted to make sure that we mention that. This trail, what we're calling phase 1, 2.5 miles of this section of the UND corridor, is important mostly because of the connectivity that it provides to several major destinations and facilities. Up in the orange section, here, the dotted orange section, you can see that that is directly adjacent and abuts Bel Air Ski Center, which is run by the Olympic Regional Development Authority. And it has direct connections into the cross-country ski, the existing cross-country skiing and mountain biking trails at Bel Air. It also has the famed double horseshoe curve, which was engineered in order to keep a consistent grade. It's still definitely not flat, but it's a beautiful historic piece of railroad infrastructure. And then we have the village of Pine Hill that the corridor passes directly behind. And down a little further to the south, southeast is the New York State, or maybe this is, I'm trying to remember who runs Bel Air Beach day use area, but this is a significant day use area with a swimming lake that is hugely popular in the summertime, as well as picnic facilities and a pavilion, and the corridor runs literally right at the back of it. As well, it abuts 1,200 acres of state land that was acquired as part of the Grand Compromise for the Crossroads Resorts, which was a proposed development up at Highmount and up on the mountain, which it has been approved but has not yet been constructed and may not be constructed. But as part of that compromise, the state of New York acquired 1,200 acres. We call it the Big Indian Parcel, that has now been folded into the Shandaken Wild Forest. DEC now has a trail plan that was funded, done by Tejas Trails and Sinuosity Trails out of Vermont, a specialty mountain bike trail planning building firm. And that trail plan is ready to go as soon as DEC has the bandwidth and is ready to do that project. So, and there's two major trestles. Giggle Hollow Trestle is, I believe, the lower inset photograph here, which is a very beautiful and historically significant stone abutments. It's in surprisingly good shape. This section of the corridor, time has not been kind. It was 1955 that the last passenger train ran from Kingston through this section out into Delaware County. In 1976 was the last passenger train. And throughout the decades, this section of the corridor really has received very little maintenance. I have a picture of former director of DEC Region 3, Willie Janeway, standing next to a tree with a good 4 or 5 inch diameter trunk in between the rails, right in this section. The long-term vision is the blue dotted line, which will take the trail all the way down to the Big Indian intersection with the Oliveria Road and Route 28. And that's a big project because the destroyed Big Indian trestle will have to be replaced. But once that happens, it will connect to the town of Shandaken's Big Indian Park. So another facility will be tied into this trail. And I believe the Peekamoose restaurant is somewhere right in here by Lasher Road. It's really a cool, it's a cool section because of all of the things that it's going to tie together and provide access to up on the mountain, and with a accessible, safe trail that is also a non-motorized. This will be a transportation project. So this is going to also provide alternatives to being in a car going up the big hill on Route 28. Happy to take any questions, but that's the summary. I don't know if Kathy Nolan's on, if she wants to say anything, because Kathy is a founding member of the Trails Advisory Committee, and she is the Ulster County legislator representing Shandaken and Olive.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. It's a great presentation, and it each time I see it, I get even more excited. This is funding from the New York State Transportation Alternatives Program. So it is a major project to show that we can use trails not only for their recreation and tourism value, public health value, but for transportation, especially in rural areas where people would be willing to travel with non-motorized transportation when these corridors are made available. And it is New York State DEC that runs the Bel Air Beach day use area. And there are many people who would like to go between that beach water area and amenities on Bel Air Mountain up at Highmount. So that'll be cross-country skiing in the winter, and it'll be mountain biking and hiking in all the other seasons. And I think it's going to really change things for that hamlet, for those three hamlets, Highmount, Pine Hill, and then down to Big Indian eventually. So it's a very large town, Shandaken. It's 23 miles long. And this trail, when it's constructed, will go a good way, a third to a half of the way through that very, very large town, providing connections between those hamlets.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we have a couple of questions. Did the Big Indian Trestle get destroyed by Sandy, or was it? Yes, Kathy is nodding yes. One of those catastrophic losses.
It took multiple hits.
Yeah, that's my impression too.
Hurricanes, yeah.
But yeah, it's been a long time of lack of use and lack of maintenance.
And it had to be taken out by Ulster County DPW in part because the county and the town of Shandaken was increasingly concerned that it could take out the Route 28 bridge, which is downstream, which has now just been replaced itself. So.
Good. Thank you. We do need to move along. So next up, although I don't have a slide for you, is Beth Campochiaro from Greenway. Do you have any quick updates for us for Greenway, grant fundings or whatever?
Gotta unmute. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the Greenways Trail Grant Program, Conservancy Trail Grant Program is open now. And that was actually the one that funded the Mills Norrie, the Hoyt Carriageway Bridge, not the Communities Council grant. That's a small point of difference, but something to keep in mind. And the next deadline is the September 2nd. And we have expanded the types of projects that are eligible for funding, as well as increase the amount of funding, the top level of grants that can be applied for in each category. So there is now a disaster recovery and reconstruction category, which means repairing a trail that has been damaged by a flooding event or some other major catastrophe, that the section that needs to be repaired is basically starting from scratch. It's basically new construction. And so we are helping out with a project with OSI. And that is what prompted us to open that category. So trail construction grants and disaster recovery rehabilitation grants reconstruction grants can be up to $250,000. A trail design or planning grant can be up to $75,000. A rehabilitation or improvement grant can be up to $100,000, and education or interpretation, which is where most of your kiosks and your signage and so forth fall under, that can be up to $25,000. And grants are also available for Greenway water trail sites as well, with those same categories. So as I said, the next grant round of applications is due September 2nd, and you can email me or call me and we can discuss if you have a project that is up for consideration. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we are holding the Hudson River Valley Ramble this September. And that is a series of outdoor guided events throughout the Hudson Valley. if your organization had an event that you wanted to list, the booklet deadline closed this Friday, last Friday, but it can be listed on the website anytime at hudsonrivervalleyramble.com. And it's any day in September. It includes October 1st and 2nd.
Thank you, Beth. So yeah, we'll put the in a follow-up email. We'll put the links that you just mentioned for people who. Thank you for allowing late events, because I think a couple of organizations may want to get in the door for that September. Again, a little bit of a high wire act. You're trying to plan these things months in advance. So thanks for those. Next up. Chris Morris, who is the New York State Trails Program Coordinator, sent us some information written. This is a distillation which he empowered me to deliver to you. One is in Ulster County. We just heard from Andy Beers, the long-running director of the Empire State Trail Project. He has passed on the baton to Molly Riley at New York State OPRHP, Office of Parks. And so as of May of 2022, management of the state trail effort is going to be taken on by OPR with Molly Riley as the head there. And who knows, maybe we can get her to talk to this group at some point in the future. About the Empire State Trail, State Parks says that they're mailing about 300 copies of that map every week. If you are not familiar with it, it looks something like this. And Beth I think Greenway is also sending these out too. Are you still, or is that passed on to OPR as well?
Yeah, we thankfully passed that task
Okay, good.
along.
Okay, so your mailroom is closed now, right?
For that.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So what that shows is that the trail is still popular, and paper maps still have currency. People are really interested in them. It's a good map. They're free. Get one. The other thing is, as Beth mentioned about Greenway funding, New York State in the Environmental Protection Fund, the grants you have to apply for through the CFA consolidated funding application process. The state has agreed to give you added points on your grant application if you have an Empire State Trail related project. There's a commissioner's priority on those kinds of projects. I don't know exactly what that means. You can read it on the CFA website, but we may get more clarification from Chris when he gets back in the saddle and gets back with us. We'll probably provide a link to that information on our follow-up. On the ground stuff, Claremont State Historic Site, okay, it's just north of Dutchess County, but they're beginning a trails master plan right now, and that's one of the places where, when we were scratching our heads about how to push a Hudson Valley Greenway trail, foot trail, along the Hudson. That was one of the dots we were trying to figure out how to connect. So that should be an interesting project. It's a very interesting site, historic deep water access for steamboats, right? The Claremont, right there on site. And another one, draft master plan for James Baird State Park. That plan is up on the state's plan website. We'll give you, the draft plan is done, the final plan forthcoming, and we'll send you again that link. The final thing that Chris said is to enable us to, I'm going to have to lose my screen here. State Parks has created a video along with I Love New York. And to play this, this is going to take a little bit of technological jiggery pokery. This is a sneak preview. You're not allowed to talk about this, or we can't share the link. But I hope you can enjoy this. The audio is going to be a little bit choppy, I'm afraid. But it says my screen sharing is paused. Is that correct? I'm going to try and play this. Do you have any audio?
A blank screen right now, Carl.
Blank screen. Do you have audio?
No.
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 Okay. Now, oh, let me. I may have to go back into a new share screen.
Yeah.
This one, and hit all the buttons at the bottom. Share. Now, do you see it?
No.
No.
Yes.
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 You see a black screen with an Empire State Trail logo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can get some audio out of this puppy. Okay, good. You may see some faces that you recognize. They'll be blurry. People on this call. Great, thank you. I hope you were able to hear some of that. Let me see. Can you see now again? See my agenda screen, or do I have to change that screen share again? You can see it. Okay.
It's kind of blurry.
A little blurry.
Blurry. Oh, complainers all the time. The
It's okay.
Oh, crikey! Now it's going to start from the beginning again. I got to
Beth,
get
do you
to
have
the-
your hand raised?
So long. I forget what the
Oh no!
Remember,
Oh,
Sorry, I just
anyway,
noticed it.
That's yeah. Sorry, but the yeah, that this the video we just saw is by I Love New York, and it's a promotional video. So I'm really curious to see exactly how this is going to be deployed. And we were talking about this a little bit before the program here, but yeah, watch for it. I'm sure we'll see it in the throughway visitor centers on their video displays that promote New York State. But I'm really curious to see where other places. And again, there's some familiar places to some of you, but I think it's fascinating, this kind of support. Let me see. Are there any updates from other parts of the of our service area? And I'll start with one question. Question from Kathy. What does the annual AT Vista program involve? If it's a conference, perhaps people, including younger people, are more interested these days in going out on the AT than in sitting around talking about it. Actually, the Vista programs involve a lot of hikes. There are workshops and things like that, but there are a lot of organized hikes within the area. It would have been headquartered at SUNY New Paltz, but there were plans to go into the Gunks and over onto the Appalachian Trail and Harriman Bear Mountain, and a lot of areas around. But those involve bus trips and things like that I imagine probably intimidated some people given COVID. But yeah, they're very active programs. Ron, I probably stepped on you for that answer, but
No problem.
Did I get most of it right?
Yes, indeed. In fact, I'll comment that the AT Vista 2023 down in East Tennessee is going to be, the primary organizer is the Travel and Tourism Group in Johnson City, with help from the local hiking organizations. So we encourage people to keep track of it. You can still get on our email or on our website, and get the atvista.org will get you to a generic information. People can sign up for being on the mailing list, which will keep you apprised of activities for next year.
Good. And I guess I will, in your corner, I hope that we can get it back to New York State. It's been a while. And that kind of benefit, the tourism benefit and promotional benefit would be a shot in the arm to our area. People don't, well, let me see. Enough said. Again, any updates from other community groups, please use the raise hand feature. I just saw Thomas with his hand up.
Hi, just real quick, if I may. The Beacon Greenway Trail Committee is excited about a few developments. We did a trail walk with the developer of a kind of a key segment, which is in the kind of central part of Beacon, and it is nearing completion. Should be complete this summer sometime. Kind of a nice long segment, again, a key part of the city, and will help to provide a nice contiguous segment between the Beacon Falls and Wolcott Avenue. So we're hoping to pick up some traffic from Wolcott Avenue, people going back and forth from to the Mount Beacon. We also completed late in the spring concept plans for several incomplete segments. These are the last remaining segments of the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail between Beacon Falls and the historic Bridge Street Bridge. We're excited about that and moving towards reaching out to property owners, including MTA and Central Hudson. So we're strategizing about that. Also, want to mention, it's not technically part of the Fishkill Creek Greenway and Heritage Trail, but trying to raise awareness and always looking for funding opportunities for the Beacon Hudson River Trail, which would connect the Beacon Newburgh Bridge and the MTA train station. We see it as a key element of or a key connector for Newburgh and Beacon, a key element of the kind of growing regional trail or city and regional trail network. But also, as a couple of people mentioned in this meeting, really important for providing transportation alternatives, reducing vehicle miles traveled as part of ongoing climate mitigation efforts. So hoping to get that built in the not too distant future. We're a long way through. I think I presented some design report to the roundtable. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has them. You can reach out by email or through the roundtable. And thanks very much. Also, again, Peter Karis, I want to take issue actually with he called himself a lead landscape architect. May have been true when he helped us put the master plan for the Fishkill Creek Green and Heritage Trail together, but he brought such a high level of work to the effort. I'm not surprised to see him doing amazing things, and unfortunately, it spoiled us in terms of what we expect from consultants. Well done, Peter.
Thanks, Thomas. We had fun, didn't we? In Beacon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great town. So, and it's a great Greenway project. I hope we look forward to hearing more about the stuff that goes on there. We have one clarification thanks to Beth Campochiaro from Miley Riley at the Empire State Trail, and it says as part of the CFA grants is the 2022 EPF grant, which is that part that's administered by OPRHP. And the commissioner priority this year includes projects that propose to rehabilitate or redevelop trails that are currently designated as parts of the Empire State Trail. So that's a clarification for what do we mean by that. And again, we'll provide the links. And Beth, you put them in the chat. If we can save the chat, we'll add that into the follow-up information. Any other quick updates or things like that? Oops. Crikey. I have am I still screen sharing? I think I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Why can't I get to?
Double click it. Oh,
yeah, that just not that one.
The last one.
Yeah, how come there we go.
Oh.
This is why is my screen going blank and stuff like that? The and fading. The show. I'm not accustomed to working on the online version of this. Again, here are some of the contacts. We want to give you the website for Open Space Institute to learn more about their work. The link to the previous roundtables that are on the videos that are on YouTube. I do want to mention that New York State working DEC, OPR, and the Adirondack Park Agency worked together to put out 2 recent webinars about accessibility on trails. The first one was about mobility devices on public lands, and their byline is it a wheelchair or other power-driven mobility device? Those of you who deal with any sort of e-bikes or other kinds of mobility devices on their trail. This is a great webinar. The other one is about sustainable trails and accessibility, how to keep our wildlands wild while being more inclusive. These are both run by Janet Zeller, who is one of my personal heroes. She just retired as the accessibility coordinator for U.S. Forest Service, and she literally wrote the book on accessibility for trails in outdoor recreation areas. So we'll provide you with the link to those excellent webinars. American Trails has also been doing great webinars. There's one coming up this Thursday, and they're free. You can sign on to hear them live, or you can again hear theirs recorded. So we'll put in the link to that. I think the current one is on sustainable trails, or is it on economic benefits? There's been a barrage of them lately. And then again, please follow Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable. Like us on Facebook. It helps us. All 8 people who follow us. We're trying to get good content up there, and get more followers. We'd love to link with your organization's Facebook page and build our circle of communication. And again, the link to that's on the Winnakee website, winnakee.org. So with that, are there any closing remarks? The next roundtable will be on Tuesday, October 18th, 1 p.m., same time, same place. And again, we'll be asking people to register in advance.
Kevin posted the link to the Ulster County plan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. And we'll put that in the follow-up link.
And
Thank you very much.
Beth also posted the link to the Parks NY.gov grants consolidated funding application.
The CFA, okay. And I see the Ramble link there as well. Again, if you know how to save that chat, we'll capture those in one place and pass them along to everyone.
Got it, Carl.
Looks like we've got one new message too. It says, "Thank you, Beth." Yes, thank you. Okay, thanks so much for a wonderful program, Peter. Yeah, we love the work you're doing on the west side of the river, and let's talk in future about maybe fomenting some of that on the east side of the river. We agree that there are some opportunities, enormous piles of challenges in the way, but some very strong opportunities as well. Thank you to all of the groups who contributed, and those of you who are thinking about contributing. If there are topics that you'd like to hear from us in the future, please let us know. If there are things you'd like to talk with, deliver as a presentation, please let us know. We might be able to get speakers, or we'd love to hear from more of you about more detail about the things that you're doing. So again, thanks again, and let's all go and see what great things we can do for trails in our communities.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Sure enough.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.